What's going on, everybody? I'm Primalliquid and welcome to my guide for Atelier Ryza 2. In this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make the most insane healing item in the game, the Forbidden Elixir, with all the best traits and effects. So let's just jump into it, shall we? Now straight off the bat we are of course going to have to make an elixir itself, because in order to make the Forbidden Elixir we actually need to combine an elixir along with something else. However, I will touch on that a little bit later. What I will say as well though is the traits for this elixir actually don't matter, and the reason I say that is because the final elixir is going to be so incredibly potent and strong that even if you have like 0 traits on, it's still going to fully heal, fully revive, and also remove all negative debuffs at the same time. So there's really nothing to worry about in this situation. However, we will be putting some traits on just to make it the most insanely overpowered possible. So what we're going to be doing first of all is basically going through unlocking all of the effects. So what I mean by that is we're going to be mainly using Ancient Philosopher Stones and Archean Cells just to unlock all of the basic effects first, and then we're going to start looking at what we're going to be buffing with Essence. In terms of the minus CC, that doesn't really matter too much in the grand scheme of things, simply due to the fact like we won't really be using it that often anyway, and we especially won't be using it at a you know, like pretty much as soon as the fight starts. So we won't really need to worry too much about CC, and we can actually get that later anyway when we're rebuilding the final elixir. So for now everything is completely maxed out, so now we need to actually look at what effects there are. As you can see on the left we have HP Gain XL, that is your basic healing. You have HP Regen L, which again is rather self-explanatory, it's your HP regeneration each turn. Remove debuffs, which if we highlight here, it just removes all status debuffs and not all effects. And then effect 4 is going to be Revival Medicine, which revives from KO and heals a great amount of HP. Now, there are a few effects that we want to boost here. However, the most important one is actually going to be this one down here. And the reason for that is we want Recovery Medicine, which heals HP over time and recovers stun damage. However, we will not actually want to go further along this path on the Forbidden Elixir. So it's much better to actually gain the ability here rather than later instead, just because it works out better for us in the long run. Now, when it comes to things like removing debuffs, we also want to boost that because it removes all status effects and stat debuffs. In terms of the HP gain, we don't need to worry about that because we're going to unlock those effects on the final rebuild anyway. And finally, when it comes to Revival Medicine, again, we don't need to worry about that because we will be boosting that later as well. So for now, we're just going to boost the Recovery Medicine effect, and we're also going to be boosting the Remove Debuff effect. So let's go ahead and pop them on now. Okay, so obviously that one's already completely maxed, and now we just need to max that ability, so I'll just drop an item there. Okay, now at this point, because we still have free quantity left, and we've already boosted all the effects we need to, I'm actually going to go ahead and get the CC abilities now, just because it will save me item usages later during the final rebuild, which means I'll also be able to keep the level lower than normal. So what I'm going to do is we're going to just create the elixir. As I mentioned at the start, traits really do not matter at all. Because the final elixir is going to be so incredibly potent, we don't need to worry about any of this. However, if you do want to, then you can go for things like Spirit's Blessing. You can go things for like the Blessing abilities, which increase your stats. You can go Rapid. So you actually throw the item out faster. Well, so you throw the item out and then you don't have to wait as long for your turn to come back. You can boost the effect on single targets, multiple targets. It is entirely 100% up to you for which effects you actually boost. They really don't make much of a difference when it comes to the final product. So I'm just going to choose 3 willy-nilly there, and we're going to actually synthesize the elixir. Okay, so the elixir has been synthesized. Now, what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be going into Evolution Link. And if I just filter by guide here, so now we just need to find said elixir. Okay, so here are all the elixirs. Obviously, I've already made some. Obviously, my traits are a little bit different, but as you can see, the effects are all the same. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to completely ignore that one, just because, I mean, I don't really like the traits because it's not the most overpowered. So I'll be using this one, which I made earlier instead, which just has a bit better in terms of traits, basically. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And what we need to do now is we need to mix this with a Miracle Eboniol. And what this will do is it'll transform it into the Forbidden Elixir. So we're going to go ahead and combine them here. Okay, now obviously as you can see we do have a whole bunch more effects spawning. That is due to the fact we have just combined them. So now we're going to go back into item rebuild and we'll just filter by date here. Wait, what? Where is it? Item rebuild date. Where's it gone? It should be there. Okay, this should be the one. Let's see. Yeah, this is the one that I just made. That's weird. It should have been at the very bottom, but it wasn't for some reason. Okay, so obviously as I was mentioning here, we can get recovery medicine here on this dragon meat. However, if you look at the second set of effects, slightly decreases attack, defense and speed and decreases attack, defense and speed. We really don't want these at all. And so because of that, that's why I said it's better to boost here, just so we can gain the recovery medicine effect and we can completely blank out this effect here. So we can actually just completely ignore that. In terms of up here, we only have a CC boosting effect. We don't need to worry about that because, I mean, well, we have 4 Spirit Amulets anyway, so CC isn't really that important. And then over here, obviously all this now is done as well, I should mention. So now if we actually go up here, we already basically got the healing medicine debuff, the healing medicine buff, which removes all status effects and status debuffs. So now let's take a look over here on the other effect. The effect over here is going to be the main ones that we want. So the reason we didn't boost HP gain XL is because obviously we can already gain the upgraded effect here. However, we're not going to be focusing on that. Instead, we're going to be going down all the way here. And the reason for that is the Hellish Healing, which fully heals HP and increases attack, defense, and speed. So not only are we going to fully heal all health, we're also going to be gaining a stat buff as well. Granted, it's not the best stat buff in the world, there are better buffing items, however it's still going to be a nice little buff on top of a complete full heal. So we're just going to go ahead and dump a Dunkelhalt in here to open up here. Then we'll throw in a dragon meat, and then here, it doesn't really matter what you use here. I'm just going to be using a Philosopher's Stone, you know, just for the sake of it. And with that, it will open up the final effect that we want, which is going to be the Hellish Healing. Now, just be careful if you do not have all the effect spread items that I did when making the initial elixir. The reason I say that is because if you pop in, say, a Philosopher's Stone over here or over here, you're going to unlock this and unlock the Darkness Price or the Crimson Price abilities. You 110% do not want those abilities, so do just be careful when making them. One other thing I will point out is if you look at the top left there, the level of this item is now level 48. And if you also look at the top right, you will be able to see that there are some characters that now cannot use this elixir. So do keep that in mind. Now, I'm not going to worry too much about the item level, simply due to the fact this elixir is only going to be used by Ryza. All the others will just be using the standard elixir that I made earlier, just because the level is much lower. Now, while I'm here, what I'm going to do is, just because I can basically, I'm going to go ahead and unlock the CC right next to me. Now, I do have a really terrible Ancient Philosopher's Stone made that did not have the effect spread value, so I don't have to worry about unlocking this one here. Alternatively, you can use an Ancient Philosopher's Stone that does not have the lightning element. And with that, we can just go ahead and put in the White Moonfrost for the final CC down, and then we can actually go ahead and create this elixir. Again, we're going to be actually, well, obviously I used a different elixir, but traits really don't matter much when it comes to these elixirs, just because we're fully healing anyway. We're gaining a status increase, which does not get affected by the trait. It'll fully heal on revive as well, and the regen is already very potent. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be using Ancient Memory, Spirit's Blessing, and then the reason for these two is increases fire, ice, lightning, and wind resistance, which is a nice buff to go on top of the stat buffs. Spirit's Blessing because it reduces the damage I will receive. And then at this point you can use something like Herculean Blessing, which temporarily increases attack greatly. But I'm not going to be doing that. Instead, I'm just going to be going with area bonus. Even though it's not really going to make much of a difference, it's just going to mean that the regen is going to be a tiny bit stronger, basically. And with that, we're going to go ahead and finish it off. Okay, so the Forbidden Elixir is now made with all the effects and all the traits that we want. However, we are still not done just yet. So what we're going to do is we're now going to go into Evolution Link again, and now we can actually choose an EV effect. Now the EV effect for the Forbidden Elixir is pretty much set in stone for what you want to use, and the reason for that is I strongly suggest using an astronomical clock, because when you actually gain the Time Master Blessing EV effect, it will apply the dimensional slice ability from the clock when you use the elixir. And if we look at what the dimensional slice actually is, it greatly speeds up the user's turn and extends stat buffs. So what this means is all those stat buffs that we're gaining from the elixir are now going to be extended, but not only that, when we actually use the elixir, we don't have to worry about waiting for our next turn to come around either. Because of the dimensional slice, it greatly speeds up the user's turn, so it's basically going to give us another turn pretty much straight away, making it one of the most beneficial effects for healing items there is. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And there we go, our Forbidden Elixir is now complete. Obviously, because mine is so high level, I can only use it on 2 people. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to duplicate that 2 more times, just so I have 1 in reserve. And now I'm going to equip one on Ryza. Oops, wrong section. Okay, so I'm going to equip it to Ryza, and then obviously I can also equip it to Clifford as well, simply due to the fact he's able to use higher level items than the others are for some reason. If you look at the dexterity on the stats, that will show you how high of a level the items that they can use are. So for example, Clifford is 80 dexterity, that means he can use items up to level 80, and Ryza is 99. But there we have it, guys. That is how you create the most overpowered healing item in the game. Still though, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope it's helped. If it has, then please be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, then make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. As always though, everybody, thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.